build relationships, but the critical thing is to build them before you actually need them.
This is Facility Rockstars, the podcast that celebrates the unsung heroes of our daily lives, facility professionals. I'm your host, Jay Culbert. Join me as we honor these great leaders, sharing stories, insights, and expertise that empower us all to learn and grow together. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier.
Welcome back to Facility Rockstars. I'm your host, Jay Culbert, and today's guest is truly dynamic. She's someone I've been really looking forward to talking with. Her insight and expertise in the world of real estate are both impressive and inspiring. She's a real estate leader, a workplace strategy professional, and commercial property expert. With extensive experience spanning residential sales, commercial property management, leasing, development, and project management, she brings a wealth of knowledge to the table. Passionate about creating environments that foster success and delivering service that truly makes an impact, she is known for driving efficiency, innovation, and client satisfaction in every project she touches. She currently serves as the Senior Facilities Manager at CBRE. Agata Gojzewska, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jay. I look forward to be a guest on the podcast. I've watched many episodes, was listening to many episodes, so I look forward to this conversation.
As do I, and thank you so much for checking the show out, being a fan of the show, and investing your time here with us today. I'm really excited about it. So, with that said, you've got a very diverse background and experience. So, what's been your biggest lesson learned, Agata?
Oh, facilities world, that's experience within itself.
Yes, it is.
But actually, I was onboarding one of my new team member this week, and I think I say it in every single interview and kind of reiterate throughout the time spent in facilities. It's basically that none of the days in facilities are the same. So I know we probably all heard this many times, but I find it very true in facility world. You can be prepared as much as you can with processes and have the ironclad plans all laid out, but things happen all the time. So when you come into the office, you anticipated maybe somewhat slower, quieter day. There's always things are happening. And it was a great example this week. Came in Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. to the leak. So it was great. It was great. They kind of throw all the trajectory of your day, but that's what we do. We have plan A, plan B, and plan C. So I learned in facilities that you just have to be prepared for pretty much everything.
Absolutely. Great advice. And I think we touched base with each other quickly yesterday, and you had another wrinkle yesterday, right? Things are always happening. So
that's true.
Good. So can you give us an example of what do you do or what do you put in place to kind of get ahead of the unforeseen things that come at you?
Just having a plan as far as the communication, who to engage, who to touch base with specifically in the instance of the leak, for example. So that way we can mitigate, do damage control, mitigate, and then of course inform the client about any issues that might impact the business operations of the facility. So just having somewhat of a plan, but of course there's always pivoting and making your own judgments, and problem solving comes into place. And then definitely having a vast network. So for example, building engineers and that relationship going with them when we do need their help.
Now, you mentioned the client. Can you talk a little bit about the communication with the client and how that works? How do you keep that sustained and healthy?
I pride myself into updating the clients right away if in the event that something is not up to par on the side and something that's not really foreseeable. So I always make sure that they are kept updated, even if it's multiple times during the day, based on how we manage fixing the issue. So they can count on being transparent. So they are not surprised when they come into the office and there's a bucket in the middle of the hallway with the sign. So they kind of know exactly what is happening at each moment. And then even kind of closing the loop, if we address the issue, what's the plan? For example, if we have to repaint any areas or if there any damages are, due to the leaks and different issues, then obviously I want to make sure that I have a plan in place and come to them with the solution and action plan of what needs to be done, and then inform them as we take those steps.
I love that you use the word transparency too, because it mitigates surprises and any miscommunication, I'm sure. Now, how do you physically communicate with your client? Is there a certain platform or a certain protocol?
So granted, some of the leadership is actually on site, not of course every day, while we're managing the facilities. So it depends on the urgency of the matter. If it's really something that, for example, we'll have to either close the office or take partial part of the area out of order, then most likely, depends on the urgency, I will either call. Majority of the time, I will just do email with maybe some pictures and, again, brief description of the issue and what the plan is. We also use Teams, so if it's something that I need some key decision making on it, I'll just reach them via quick text message or a ping.
Perfect. Thank you. You and I spoke, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and you talked about the culture of service in facilities management. I would love to hear you expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's something I have noticed recently, and it was topic of my other conversations that when I started in facilities, the facilities was as a group, as a function, it was just basically behind the scene and dealing with the work orders. That's kind of how the facility group is always seen, kind of behind the scenes, seamless operations and just talking about work orders or reaching out to facilities only on those topics. I feel that stuff have really shifted, and we're no longer just managing the spaces. Granted that our facility group is always on site, it's kind of easier to get that rapport with the client or with the employees that are on site. And we kind of come into with more of like a hospitality mindset. So definitely it's much easier to build a rapport with folks that actually are on site. But it's more of like a lot of soft skill come into place. It's not just only, the hard skills that when we have to manage the properties. Kind of creating the very meaningful people-centric experience that you actually get to bond with the client. So they are more open to coming to you whenever there is an issue or whenever something needs to be adjusted in their favor to make the workspace more comfortable. So I find that kind of change, it's not just facilities are only to fix an issue. It's more of a proactive approach with the client, maybe seeking their advice on what could be improved. But it's less responsive with building technical issues. It's more so creating somewhat of a relationship and rapport with client. And I think that's kind of two sides of the facility scope now.
No, it's great. I'm taking notes here. And proactive approach versus just reactive. You're ahead of it. You're asking the client for some suggestions on what they may want done or changed. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what types of things do they bring to you?
Yeah, it's I know it's not always something that we want to hear as feedback, because then maybe necessarily we can't always accommodate all the changes. But for example, snacks in the office. That's very, everyone loves snacks, and that's something that we offer in the office, and it could be such a small thing based on someone's preference for certain small things that throughout the day actually could mean, make a difference. And just the fact that we are willing to listen and be accommodating as much as we obviously can with the realistic expectations. I find that people like the fact that we ask.
Oh, sure.
Temperature, room temperature, lighting, anything that of that nature that can definitely make a difference in specific workstation, workplace. We're always willing to open and explore. Do we have to sometimes say no? Of course, but we at least try to accommodate most of their reasonable requests.
And let them down easy if they're not quite reasonable.
That's true. That's another part of facilities work.
So you mentioned soft skills and hospitality, and I think that's really interesting. Here's my question though. If you have an engineering group, like I don't know how many people are in your team, how many people are in your team, or who do you work with?
Currently, I have a smaller group. I have two facility coordinators, but
Mhm.
we are in a multi-tenant building, so we do have a group of building engineers that help with space management.
Okay. So what I'd love to hear more about is the building engineers, right? And when you have an engineering like mindset, that's not a singular thing, of course, but when you're used to being behind the scenes, how do you teach and foster that mindset of hospitality and soft skills? How do you teach it, right? How do you bring that forth every day for people that may not come naturally to?
Of course, I realize that there's so many personalities and just like on the client side. So for with the groups that we work with, I think it's important to have some trainings. I know trainings seems to be, with the platforms, there's so many platforms right now to kind of maybe brush on some of those skills. I know myself, I would like to take, that's actually on my agenda for next training is the Ritz-Carlton training. It's all
Hmm.
focused on hospitality. I heard great stuff about that. So I would love to participate and get a little bit more acquainted with the ways of accommodating, again, clients' needs and so forth. But with building engineers, yes, definitely focus on the hard skills. So basically just training and maybe pointing a few things out, mirroring what we do as facility group, how we approach the client, even as far as reporting back and communication. I feel like uh, just kind of pointing a few things out that could be done in order to build those relationships more of like in a soft skill way.
Do you find it hard to get people there, or is it, is a combination of training and I love the Ritz-Carlton idea, by the way.
Yeah.
But are you able to get them there?
I think so, yeah. I think
Okay,
so. I
good.
think they see how we react and conversate with the employees, so the certain level of professionalism and what kind of messaging we convey. I think they see how we handle that, so they kind of feel a little bit pressure of maybe mirroring that or really paying attention to be very professional and what the client kind of expectations are with
That's
the
great.
communication and presence on site. Yep.
We talked about hospitality, and then you've talked about facilities as a strategic partner, and I think we're kind of getting into that right now. But are there more aspects of that you'd like to expand on?
Yeah, I also seen a little bit of a shift again from facilities being seen as just group that maintains the building, maintains the space, and you come to when you have an issue, you need to submit a work order. Now I feel like because we have such a strong presence on site every day, we have our other functions coming to us for strategic planning. So, for example, HR with onboarding, we participate with onboarding process. So, staging the desks, space planning where the groups are allocated to. Um, and we are kind of the first phase that new employees most of the time see, not unfortunately the way facilities and just in general office attendance is these days. You can never really count on having a full group of employees on site. So we are always there. So we're that one consistent piece, and we pride ourselves on that. So that way, when you're a newly onboarded employee, would always give everyone a facility tour and kind of introduce ourselves. So that way we are at that first point of contact, and hopefully make everyone welcome enough so they can reach out to us with questions, not necessarily about facilities, but in general about the organization. So that way we can direct them in a right. We can send them in the right direction for answers if we don't have those. But I think we became a little bit more of a partner now with that planning, strategic planning, versus we used to kind of facilities were seen just as a group that handles the building issue,
Hmm.
technical
Hmm.
issue. It's just so much more than just keeping the lights on and the temperature on. It has changed a lot since I've started in facilities about 8 years ago.
I think it's really good. It sounds like a very holistic approach to the whole business, really, all the people. And like you said, it's not just the infrastructure of the building, it's the interaction with the people, the planning that you're doing with them. You mentioned space planning and like attendance in the, well, if attendance is the right word, but how many people are in the office every day versus other days? How do you deal with that? How flexible do you need to be with the different headcount on different days or different weeks?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of facility managers, directors have the same problem with how do we get employees back on site? How do we count for those? And back before the pandemic, of course, we had majority of folks on site, 8 to 5. We could account for those too. We knew who was in the office. If, for example, someone was out on the leave, on vacation, or maybe out of the office for a day, everyone knew. Um, it's not the same today. And then at some point, we were really counting on that badge reads. Obviously, that's all anonymous, but it was still kind of try to get an idea about how many folks are on site any given day. But it's really hard to track because the trends now that someone could come into the office, but maybe not stay the full day. Maybe they will come in for lunch and then stay for a few more hours. Maybe they will come just for the morning meetings.
Mhm.
So just the badge read itself, it doesn't really give us a picture of how the space is being used, how many hours they spend at the desk, how many hours they spend in the meeting room, what size meeting rooms, what groups are using. So those are very relevant for space planning and trying to utilize the space to the fullest, which I think we all have a little bit of challenge actually doing and also tracking. Um, so my site specifically, there was a larger investment into us occupancy sensors. So that's something that's a tremendous resource as far as us tracking, specifically the meeting room usage and collaboration space usage. So that way we can make those decisions later, or at least propose some of the projects later to the stakeholders in regards how we can change some of the rooms configurations or really how those facilities are used. And of course, that takes some time to get that data, to have at least 6 months of the data to start interpreting those trends. But that is a huge help. So that way we know exactly what to invest in as far as the infrastructure and desks and new furniture and some of those capital projects that come with a hefty price tag. So then the leadership can make better informed decisions. And that's kind of a game changer in my mind for space planning and also
So,
facility management. Yeah.
sounds like a very smart building. Can you say anything more about the occupancy sensors and what it was like to put them in? And what is that? I haven't heard a lot about that from other guests yet. So this is the first time on the show anyway.
Yeah. So it is somewhat challenging to put that in. I think we have a 55,000 square foot facility. So we had about 180 sensors put in. And again, it's not less more for tracking employees because we are not looking to do that at their specific spaces, but more so for the meeting rooms. We have 3 different sizes of meeting rooms, obviously large conference rooms, huddle rooms, which is roughly 5 to 6 person rooms, and foam rooms. And then collaboration spaces, auditorium, cafeteria. So we're looking to see how is that really being utilized and if there are any changes that need to be made in the future. So that data can be, of course, it's a beautiful dashboard that came, a platform that we can use with the sensors. And then we can easily, extract the information that we need specific to each respective space and then kind of showcase that in any future decision making about renewing leases and so forth and downsizing, or if there is a need to get a larger space. It's definitely much easier to get that point across and kind of build a business case for that.
It sounds not only strategic, but like it must be such usable data, like you're saying, for decision making. How does the client respond to this?
We actually, for example, had anticipated that we're going to have to add more desks this year. And then based on that, it was easier to kind of change the habits around the current infrastructure, so the current desk usage. we're able to kind of push back on the teams and say, well, if you're not using what you have, please don't ask us for more space. Let's just think about the habits or other solutions that are less expensive as a next step in decision making. Let's work around the habits and stuff that we can actually adjust with a minimal effort versus spending more money and adding more resources in the space.
It sounds like you and your team are doing a great job just guiding the client in very smart ways, very intelligent ways. I want to jump over to nonprofit versus profit. Two worlds. I think your words were two worlds, same facilities mission. Like, this is interesting to me. Can you talk about that, Agata?
Yes, of course. So I've in the past 8 years, when I started with facilities, my facilities adventure, I had a chance to kind of half of that time spent working for the client, for profit client, and then recently I work for a larger nonprofit organization. And so I've seen a little bit of a shift too. I think it's still somewhat the same. It's the same mission. We still try to provide them with a very space efficient, welcoming workspace. So that doesn't change. But as far as the nonprofit and for profit, I think of course the goals are completely different. The resources are completely different. So I feel a little bit of difference in that way. Perks versus purpose. That's kind of like the first thing that comes to me when I think about that. Not to say that, of course, not all for-profit organizations are evil, and that's not the case. But it's very differently something that we're supporting profitability and also the brand making, and then with nonprofit. I feel like just the office environment is completely different. It's just people that come into work with passion for what they do. And regardless of what the nonprofit is about, but if it's community outreach or public health or any of those initiatives, I think it's more relaxed environment. But also, of course, everyone is so passionate about what they do. They really try to make the best of the resources that they have. I guess another difference is just the budget planning. But either way, we have to really advocate for facilities management, efficiency, and budgets. Some of, like I said, with the for-profit or nonprofit, there's completely different budget structure too. So I feel like the key changes is just the environment too. And again, perks versus purpose. So with nonprofit, I know there is a lot of additional nice to have and nice way of kind of bringing back employees to the office versus, in nonprofit, we are really mindful about the grant monies that we get, and we try to do our best to be a good stewardship of those means.
Hey, rock stars. If you're tuning into the podcast and are feeling overwhelmed by all the maintenance demands at your facility, don't stress. We've got you covered. Our sponsor, Colutus, is your go-to partner to help you tackle all those demands and get them done right, on time, and with top-notch quality. From project planning to execution, Colutus is there to make hard work easy. Visit colutus.com today to get started.
I think you just touched on my question because you mentioned totally different budget structure, right? For the different types of business. How does that affect you, your team, the facilities offerings, what you're able to do, what you're not, and how you plan differently?
Advocating for facilities budgets, I feel like it's always a tough one. With repairs and maintenance, that's something that none of the organization always kind of wants to spend money on. But of course, deferred maintenance, I always explain that it costs more in the long run. So I think, just having a very realistic expectations of what is needed to maintain a healthy facility. It's never easy with either one of the type of the organizations.
Makes sense. Yeah, and you're right. It is difficult to secure budgets many times. It's not, facilities isn't a profit generator. right? At the end of the day, it helps everything else, but it doesn't actually generate direct revenue. So, um, I want to get to your journey, but I want to ask you a different
Yeah,
question first. So this
of
is so
course.
facilities is like we opened up, right? It's unpredictable. We have to pivot. Everything changes. You got plan A, B, C, D, E. Oh, forgot about F. We didn't get to it yet. Um, so what's been, maybe one or two of the most challenging, like grueling things you and your team have faced over the years? And the reason I ask is, how did you get through it? How'd you work through it, mitigate whatever was happening? And then what have you put in place since that time to try to avoid that in the future?
Oh, that's a very great question. I think one of an example that comes to me because I'm still thinking about this years later was a failure of one of the water heaters that was built in a brand new space. So basically, we're looking to deliver a brand new floor. There was exclusively a gym, massage rooms, beautiful facility, brand new. That was uh, being built in about a year and a half. And then on New Year's, I remember because it was New Year's, I got a call at 2 in the morning that we had a leak. So, of course, I rushed into the site and beat the building engineer. And everything is like in two to 3 inches of water, the whole floor, and the
Oh,
tenant below in the retail space. And so, kind of thinking that, a water boiler broke. It was brand new. The room was built around the boilers. I mean, it was
mm,
supposed to serve as beautiful lockers, brand new lockers. Um, so yeah, so that was kind of something that stood in my mind. It's like, there's nothing we can do about this. I was just standing in a puddle of water. There's nothing I could do. I mean, it has to kind of get out of the boiler. It's nothing we can stop at that point. Of course, delayed in a construction finish and occupancy, but as much as we could, we kind of tried to come in, uh, mitigate, work with the insurance, with the construction company, see how fast we can move forward. And just thinking that here we are thinking that is a brand new facility. This is going to be great. This is going to be easy to maintain, warranties and all that. But I feel like it's never the case. You can never really
mm,
think about, okay, the boiler's going in the room. We're going to have to worry about it in 10 years. This is great. Like, the replacement cadence. And that kind of goes back to my experience as a realtor back in many days when we're doing those homes inspection on the new properties, the brand new construction. It kind of the same thing. We most likely will have a longer punch list than could have on a 100 years old house. So newer doesn't always necessarily mean it's issue or problem free. So that's something I've learned too with facility because I did spend a long time kind of managing the newer space delivery and was kind of always put on the projects that were brand new. So then I can tackle the construction team and to make sure that the punch list items are getting addressed on the day two and so forth after delivering the space. So to answer your question, I think as much
mm.
planning as we want to do with the team and kind of have, again, contingencies in place, it's just kind of going with the flow and that kind of pivoting and strategic sourcing is not only strategic sourcing, but problem solving. That's what I'm going for. Problem solving and damage control, I suppose.
This is such a good example because you're right. It's not aging equipment. It didn't go past its, life expectancy. It was brand new. Like, what could you possibly do? It's brand new, and you're still in construction. And of course, it happened at 2 a.m. on New Year's. Of course,
Uh,
right?
that's why I remember it, and that's why a good example comes in.
So I think, yeah, like the fact that you were able to mitigate it and just do what you had to do to take care of the situation was really all you could do, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
This has been a ton of information. Thank you so much. And now I want to pivot a little bit and go towards like your journey and how you got here into this space and facilities. And you have an interesting story. So I'd love to hear more about it.
Of course. So I guess the fun fact, I'm not sure if people find it fun, but I was actually born and raised in Poland, made my way here about 23 years ago. Didn't speak English. So that's always a little bit something that I look fondly upon. So now I can actually do podcasts. Who knew? But
And very well.
oh well, thank you, thanks, Jay. But yes, so I started somewhat in residential sales. I was always fascinated with construction, with buildings, with the just value of homes, and then kind of got into real estate, and I absolutely love it. Again, same kind of service centric field. Lot of talking with the clients. The contractual piece of that came handy in facilities too, because obviously from that I can read contract easily. So some of the pieces kind of are helpful to have in the back. But as far as the residential sales, I was always into buildings, into the infrastructures, obviously home inspections, so kind of getting all the systems, HVACs, heating, cooling, everything all together. And that brought me into opportunity to work in facility as a facility coordinator. So it's a basic entry-level position, which taught me a ton. So I spent about 3 years just learning, managing multiple buildings in Cambridge. So it was a team of 30, roughly 34 floors, one of the biggest tech companies in Cambridge. It was a beautiful experience-wise. A crazy, crazy environment, but it just, fire putting out here, there. But it was such a great experience, and I'm so grateful that I had that chance, because then that kind of opened the gates for me to move on to different type of facilities, maybe smaller, bigger, managing actually office cross country too. So this is great. This was a very great learning experience, and that brings me kind of advance in the facility world a little bit. And here I am as a senior manager, which I absolutely love, that I can use that experience, throughout the time, leverage some of my great networking and mentorships, and that brought me to where I am today. But going back to Poland, what I find super exciting is that throughout the years, I had the chance to actually work for quite a few facility management companies, such as JLL, Cushman and Wakefield, and currently CBRE. So that's called the Triple Crown. So here I am with the Triple Crown. Very excited. Have absolutely the best things to say about each of the companies, and the network that I've built, and mentors and managers that I work with. But when I was in my real estate journey, I was working for another large company, which was Keller Williams. Mm-hmm. And so what I always find fascinating in Poland, where I'm from, all these companies have a large presence in Europe and specifically in Poland, and so for in my town, actually. So kind of connecting with a lot of folks from Poland as far as networking. LinkedIn is, of course, fabulous tool to do that. But I'm always, whenever I have a chance to travel to Poland, I would always love opportunity to meet with someone. So actually, when I'm going to Poland in August, I'm hoping to meet with someone in CBRE office in my home city. And I've done that with Keller Williams in past. So I think it's just the facility management as a service presence in Europe. It's huge. And so for in Poland too, Poland has experienced such a large growth in the last few years, with the amount of warehouses, factories, and then commercial spaces. I think it's 34 million square meters now, which is huge. I think it's like over 8% growth over the last year. So that sophisticated facilities service management is definitely something that's rising. And I'm happy that all these large companies from here can actually have the presence over there and leverage all the tools and systems. And I'm happy. I'm really proud that to be working at some point for all these companies. And now that it's kind of maybe at some point opportunity to work in Europe, that's in my back of my mind.
That is fantastic. I mean, thank you very much, first of all, for sharing your whole journey. And, it's not only impressive what you've done, but it's inspiring. I find it inspiring. 23 years ago, you came here, you didn't even speak English, and you still went and accomplished all of this. So good for you. That's phenomenal. Really great. I would like to ask one more question, and that question is, what advice would you give someone else in a role similar to yours?
For me, it's all about building a network. And I'm sure, again, you probably heard this many times on your podcast, but I really, truly believe that building a network, that's one of the biggest pieces to have. Whether it's, again, mentorship with your career, whether it's a vendor partnership, kind of having multiple vendors in your pocket, kind of for, leveraging their services, but also be a resource to others. Kind of whatever you get, kind of give back to. So for those newers in the industry, newer people in the industry, be that resource too, as you have your mentors that are spending time helping you out. I think I in general love to talk to people, love to build those relationships. And like I said, I am not really shy about reaching out to someone across the world. If I can learn something new, schedule 15-minute, half an hour kind of intro call, and then see what the practices are over there, over here, what's the salaries are over there, how are we here. I always try to do webinars. I get invited to webinars, networking events. IFMA, for example, has been a great resource too. I'm getting more and more so into events and knowing everyone. But I already can tell that it's such a great group that I wouldn't really be shy to ask questions that if something I need maybe a second opinion on or some kind of a guidance on. So yeah, just build relationships, but the critical thing is to build them before you actually need them. So especially with vendors, not to try to reach out to someone when you're in the process of finding a solution out. Build them kind of seemingly as you go, and then just seamlessly as you go, and then that way you can leverage them when you need them. But again, don't forget to kind of give back. Don't forget to be a resource for others too, or spend time researching things.
Very sound advice. And I love how you have such a thirst for knowledge and continuous learning is what I'm hearing. And just on the IFMA note as well, we talked about this. A few of their leadership team has been on the show, and they're a phenomenal group. They're just so good for the facilities world. So yeah, we like to work as closely as we can together to help the community.
Yes, I look forward, now that I'm a little bit more involved, I look forward to all the tours. That's just such a tremendous opportunities to kind of compare the notes, the facility management side. So it's definitely great.
Awesome. Well, Agata, I'm sure people are going to have questions for you beyond just the content you shared on the show. So what's the best way to get in touch with you? How would you want people to reach out?
LinkedIn, I think it's the easiest way. So can definitely find me once you learn how to spell my first and my last name. I'm able to find it in there. And then I guess CBRE email, but then I can maybe I think LinkedIn is probably the easiest way.
Perfect.
To all of me.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time. It was awesome talking with you. We talked a few times before the show, and this was exciting. So thank you. I can't thank you enough.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Of course. And for everyone listening, if you enjoyed the show, if you learned something, follow the podcast, tell someone else about it. And it's another great episode of Facility Rockstars. We'll see everybody again next week.
It's a wrap. Another episode of Facility Rockstars is in the books. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Until next time, facilitate and rock on.